Dan and Julie. Today we're here with Martin, who has a job title that I would probably say is a commodities broker, but deals with other things in that area. But do you want to explain what your job title is and what it is you do?
Yes, so basically I work for a company that trades precious and base metals on the London Metal Exchange. We look after all sorts of customers from the mining side all the way through the production stages to refining, smelting and the finished product. And that's for a number of metals.
And so what is it you do in that?
I just look after the precious metals, which are gold, silver, platinum and palladium. And we offer various derivatives to do with those, mostly spot, which is 2 days prompt, forwards that go further forward out to a year, options on those particular metals, and something else called averaging, which is a specialist derivative.
So how did you get into this? How did you get started in this business?
Well, I graduated many, many years ago, and something completely different. And it took me a while to decide what I want to do, which I'm still deciding on as we speak, all these years later. But basically, it was something I was very interested in, and I managed to know somebody in the business who managed to get me in at very much the ground floor. So I started probably with a degree at the basement level.
Oh, what was that basement level?
A messenger.
So just handing around the...
Oh yeah, going out to take in those days it was all hand deliveries amongst all the trading houses in London. So you picked up stuff going out, went round to those places, picked up the stuff that was for our company, and that's how it worked.
Now obviously the internet's
emails, etc. Yeah, all the IMs, all that sort of stuff. So it's a lot easier, a lot quicker, and but back in the day it was all done by hand.
Wow. So the London Metal Exchange, is it still done face to face, or is it?
Yeah, there's 3 areas to it. The ring, which runs from 11:30 to 5 o'clock, face to face. You have the telephone market, which is inter-office. Customers ring up, asking for what they want, what they need, what they want to do and what metal. And you also have the platform. The London Metal Exchange has a platform that trades the commodities that it offers.
For those who don't know, the LME is the London Metal Exchange. It's actually one of the last open outcry markets in the world.
I think it's the last open outcry market in Europe, certainly.
Yeah.
There are a few in other countries, like COMEX in New York and Chicago.
Oh well, that's brilliant. So what is your average day to day? You go in the morning.
So we start normally about 7:30. That's to take in the tail end of Asia. The LME market opens at 1 o'clock London time. So we have a Shanghai that takes it through from 1 a.m. to 7:30, when we traditionally get our desks and start picking up the European customers. And then that flows through to lunchtime when the US market customers come in, and somebody's there till 7 o'clock when it closes.
Wow, it's a long day. So the face-to-face element, is that kind of why people get into it still? Or?
Oh, I think there's probably many reasons why people get into it. It can be very exciting. It can also be very dull. It's the remuneration can be very good.
Yeah.
I've been lucky enough to travel all over the world on business, that sort of thing, and you're meeting new people all the time. It's very much a city institution, and people are attracted to that sort of thing.
Yeah, the history behind it, I suppose. And...
Yeah, it's like any other city job that you can probably get in insurance or in other different markets and that sort of thing. But yeah.
So coming into the day, are only 2 days the same? For
me personally, I have certain times of the day that I have to do something, and other traders do as well, depending on what their markets are. So I've got to roll my positions as soon as I get in, so that's done out of the way. I can start concentrating on the day-to-day business, and then throughout the day there are various they used to be called fixings, and they're called benchmarks when the international price is set for these particular commodities, and they run throughout the day. So the first gold benchmark's at 10:30, then you have the silver at midday, the PM gold at 3 o'clock. So I'm always preparing for those sort of things, as well as doing all the other things that has to be done throughout, quoting customers and that sort of thing.
What's the biggest drop or rise you've ever seen in, say, the gold price in a day?
$100.
Okay, wow.
Yeah.
And was that for a day specific, like 9/11?
Oh, yeah.
Or?
Yes, there's always something reasons of Black Monday or 9/11 or something. It causes the price to fluctuate quite violently.
And obviously, you say you're a precious metal or focus on precious metals, but do you have to keep an eye on the other markets, stocks, oils,
I'm looking,
all sorts?
Yeah, because they all now, in the day of algo trading, they all trade to a certain extent with each other. So, the dollar will go down or up, gold will be reflected in that, the energy price will be reflected in that, the copper price in the demand will be reflected in that. So they're all interlinked to a certain extent, whereas 20 years ago they probably wouldn't be that closely related. The correlation wasn't there.
So that means the job must have changed quite a lot. There's a lot more analytics involved. Was it a bit like almost a guessing game?
No. I think it was. There's more information out there, and you can access the information a lot quicker. When I first started, it was the screens were black with green writing on them.
Wow.
The telephone systems were, you flicked them off, and you had a line to each customer that flicked it off with the light going on and off as you spoke to them. And that's all changed. The platforms have come in. All the markets are on exchange based these days, and it is somebody who retired 20 years ago would now walk in and think, where the hell, what's happened here?
Oh, really?
It's changed out of so quickly.
Cool. So it sounds like it's quite varied. It doesn't.
Yes.
Does it get monotonous ever, or?
Yeah, because I'm still doing the same sort of thing in the same order as I've done it all the time. But throughout that, there's always something that might happen. There's always another market that's going a bit silly, or somebody's doing something in the room a bit silly, that sort of thing. There's always interest to keep you going.
Yeah.
Markets can sort of plateau and stay still for a week or so, but eventually something's around the corner that is going to move it, and then it's going to get very busy, and you have to be on top of your game to continue.
So the job role is obviously a very unique technical role, understanding these numbers, understanding what's going on in the world. What are some of the personality traits that you see in yourself and others that you think would thrive in this industry?
Probably the ability to get on with others. There's a lot of departments you have to work with, compliance, credit, risk, support, and to do your job in the middle, all these other areas have to work with you. So getting on with people and helping them understand their job as they can understand your job makes it a lot easier.
So even though you are the dealer, you have the title of the dealer, there is still a team game after all.
Oh, very much so. And it flows through from the initiation of the trade all the way through till the email goes that, the trade recap. And there's probably for each trade 5 stages that's involved in that before it goes through. So it is quite labour intensive, not as labour intensive as it was, but you still need people in each area that do their job to get it done correctly. You
mentioned the compliance guys there as well.
Yes.
They were always a favourite in the insurance industry, the compliance people. I'm sure it's the same there.
Oh, very much so.
But if we certainly noticed when I was doing insurance that there was just more and more red tape around what you did, how you did it, record what you're doing. And the old boys just couldn't get that round their heads.
Yeah, it's not the Wolf of Wall Street anymore.
No. We're run by the FCA, LME. They've all got their own rules and regs that we have to abide by. The European market, there's lots and lots of regulation now that wasn't in place 20 years ago, but that's all come to fruition because of trying to protect the customer. the likes of the Wolf of Wall Street, as you just mentioned, that was the customers got completely scammed there.
Yeah.
This regulation has come in to protect the markets and protect the individuals trading within those markets, and not to allow that sort of thing to happen anymore.
Yeah. So you mentioned that obviously you're working with all these precious metals. It must be a very high stress level job.
It can be, but you wouldn't be if you don't do it. I wouldn't be doing it for so long if I couldn't have handled it.
Yeah.
So you soon realise whether you're good enough to stay in, and the company realises that you can stay, because they can't have somebody that can't do it at the end of the day.
Very true.
They'll be bleeding money otherwise.
Well,
won't they?
You need to be the face of the company, so you need to go out and meet people and talk to them about their requirements. It's like any job. You speak to your customers and you sort out what they need, and hopefully you can provide that. And how we do it is through hedging strategies.
So if you were to be hiring someone today, what kind of qualities would you look? I know you said, they need to be able to get on with people. They need confidence. But if you're hiring for a broker role, what are you looking for?
I think is at what stage you're looking at. I mean, if you're looking at a clerk, you're probably A-levels would suffice. I mean, if you're going to a bank, you'd probably need a decent degree from a decent university these days, only because there is so much competition out there that, if you've got a normal degree from, I don't know, somewhere, Southampton, something like that, you are going into the pot with 200 other people. So you need to be able to stand out, and you need something on that CV that's going to make you stand out to the people that are hiring. Of course, some experience helps as well. Yeah,
that's always the funny thing in the city. If you need experience before you've even started.
Yes, but how do you get it?
It's not just the city; it's any industry.
Very true.
So actually, just going back, you were saying, coming out of A-levels. But what about those really core personality traits? Do you think is if you had someone sit down opposite of you in the interview, what?
Somebody with an ability to learn, happy to learn, gets on with everybody. That's very much part of the job, and people are then willing to teach you.
Yeah, I mean, it's nothing you learn in school. So it is you come in and you are having to learn
there's
everything.
Courses, there's charting courses, all that sort of thing, but most of how people in our area get taught is through experience. So you literally do start at the bottom. You start as a clerk on whatever markets you're working on. You work up to be a junior dealer, and if you're lucky enough, you stay long enough, you become a dealer, and then that's the progress.
So what are the real core negatives of the job that you aren't part of the fantasy, really?
I suppose the long hours sometimes, but you get used to it. You really do get used to getting up at 6 o'clock every morning to get to the office for 7:30 and having to work to 7 o'clock some nights. It takes time to get used to it, but you do. Other negatives? There aren't that many. I mean, it can get stressful. It can, you get tired doing it, that sort of thing. But no, as long as you're in a good team, that keeps you going. As long as you're doing well, that keeps you going.
So if you had to pick one thing that's not on the job description that you have to deal with, what would that be?
Compliance, probably.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a common theme on this.
I mean, we're getting more and more tests now as the market changes. That we used to, the company used to say that you're good enough to do it, but we're now after taking online tests internally, all those sort of things that you can prove that you know what you're talking about. You need to get a certain amount of marks at the end of it. Well, thankfully I've not got below the threshold or I've not failed one, but it's all coming in. It's going to come in more and more as time goes on.
But before I left the city, I had one exam which was health and safety based, and it was about your sitting position at your desk. And if you failed it, HR came round and assessed how you were sitting, and you had to go back every week and assess how you were sitting at your desk.
Well, we haven't gone to that degree quite yet, thankfully.
Where do you see the industry going? How is the face-to-face going to be lost, or
no? There'll always be face-to-face, but there probably will be more platform-based trading. I mean, all the big markets, the foreign exchange market, the indices, the stock markets—they're all on exchange now. There's a few that aren't, but they're all going that way because it's easier to monitor. You can monitor stuff going through an exchange far easier than on a telephone or on IM.
Is obviously we talked about the Wolf of Wall Street and him making a large amount of money there. Is the money now coming through more software and code writers and algorithm and analysts of this code and the information?
I mean, at the end of the day, to make money, you've got to stay one step ahead of your competition, and that's exactly where your edge will come from. These people can write these algos that can trade markets. There's algos out there now that when a major economic release comes out, the CPI or the trade figures, something like that, the algos can tell which way to start buying or selling as opposed to the number. There's also some that when a statement comes out from Trump or the Fed, the wording of the statement, they'll trade against that because the words inherent in the statement they can use, and there's no people involved in it.
Wow.
Off it goes.
Well, that's quite incredible. You actually said earlier that you're still looking for your career change. Do you reckon you'll be learning C++ anytime soon? Or?
What's that mean?
So you also said about the younger generation coming in as clerks, some with A-levels, some with university degrees. What would you expect a starting income for that range to be?
It all depends on whether you're working for a bank or a broker or, there's no normal starting salary, but probably 20,000, I'd imagine. If you're going into a bank, having a master's or something, probably a lot higher than that, or an Oxbridge degree, probably even higher than that. But as a base salary for somebody with A levels, I'd imagine it would be 20,000. But that's a long time ago, so I wouldn't ever know. Never clue.
You mentioned earlier you've done a bit of travelling.
Yes.
So where can this job take you? You can travel around the world, but where in your career can it take you? Different paths, different routes.
Well, we're lucky in the fact that we trade metals, in that metals are produced all over the world, and they're also consumed all over the world. So you put those two sides of the market together. Chile's the biggest copper producer country in the world, and China's the biggest consumption of copper in the world. And I've been lucky enough to go to both those. Canada, South America, all around Europe, smelters, refiners all over the world, taking that metal and making it what they need to do before they pass it on to the people that make the finished product. So wherever you go, and whatever sort of customer you're looking at, there's areas to visit and people to meet and companies to sign up.
Wow.
And what about career progression? Are you like obviously coming at a clerk? You said going junior dealer, and then a dealer, and then after that, I presume management of some of these companies is the general role.
Yeah, I mean, that's the normal career progression. As I say, it depends. Most of the opportunities arise because people leave or retire in front of you, depending on the amount of staff that they have. So you could be stuck for a number of years before that you get any further because the person that you want to take the role of hasn't gone anywhere. So yeah.
Do you have to move around brokers and banks to sort of progress?
If you're good, you'll get seen and poached. But if you're good, the company will also like to keep you.
Right.
So again, it's the individual's decision whether they want to try to do it elsewhere or they'll just stay with the one company. I'm sure it's like any profession, any job that's.
And how is it to move from one sort of commodity to another? If you see, we spoke about the different commodities affecting each other.
Yeah, I mean, whatever market you're trading with, it be metals, currency, energy, the basics are all very much the same, and it's not that hard, as long as there's a place there to go to switch from one sort of financial market to another financial market. Obviously, the further forward in your career, you're sort of stuck within that path. There's no point changing it off, when you're 40, 45, whatever, because all your experience by then is in one area. It probably make it difficult to jump to another area, but when you're in your 20s or whatever, it's probably quite easy.
And so advancing from these different career levels, is it just hard work and graft, and then being the best at being outstanding in your field?
Well, I mean, you obviously need to be good. I wouldn't say outstanding you need to be, if you're working for a fund or something like that. But, you need to produce results. You need to be, they monitor what you do. They monitor you on a weekly, daily, monthly basis. And I'm sure, if you're not doing what they want, you'll soon be told. It's like any career that, you have to perform to stay in it. And, as long as you're satisfying what your company wants you to do, it's like anything else.
What's your favourite part of the job?
Lunch.
Is there still is there quite a lunch culture?
Is that the face-to-face lunch where you get to take your customers out for a nice...
that helps. It's always nice to meet customers or meet counterparties, something like that. But no, it's still a people industry, and certainly the metals, the commodities is still a people industry. It's not faceless like foreign exchange or stock market or something like that. So you need to know who you're speaking to, and
And when you get up to sort of the higher dealers working for some of these banks, what sort of income can you expect at that sort of level? I'm sure that can vary from quite.
Well, I've never worked for a bank, so I can't actually answer that. But from what I know is that the sky's the limit. Really,
wow. There
is no upper limit.
I'd also just like to ask you, a while ago told me quite an interesting story about a gentleman in the 80s working for one of these banks, was actually making more money than the CEO of the bank. I was wondering if you could just quickly give me that story.
No, he was on a deal. I mean, certain people are salaried. Some people are on incentives to produce what they can. And obviously, if you're in the right place at the right time and the right market conditions, that allows you to do that. Obviously, they've signed up to pay you a certain amount if you produce multiples of that.
Wow.
Not everybody's on that sort of deal to start with, but if you are, and all the stars align themselves, then it is possible to make more than the higher earning, the senior people in the company.
Wow.
But I'm not going to tell you any numbers.
So just maybe a few closing comments. If somebody's looking to get into the industry, maybe changing jobs, coming across, what's a few steps they can take to sort of make themselves, give themselves a better chance?
Well, obviously, a keenness helps. I'll just give you a little story that somebody I know that was looking to become a clerk for one of the companies, and apparently he had a very good interview, and he got the feedback that he had a very good interview. So he was quite hopeful that he'd be offered the position, and in the end he wasn't, because apparently the person that got the job had a small amount of experience, but also self-taught themselves Mandarin. So,
and I think the candidate also had some experience in the dealing with as well, didn't he?
Yeah. So you need to go to quite lengths to get yourself noticed. It's all part of getting known. If you can get yourself noticed, then you've got a better chance than your competitors to get the same role.
Wow. Well, I really enjoyed that. Thanks for coming on and having a chat.
Oh, well, thank you very much. It's I look forward to lunch.
Thanks, Martin. Cheers. Martin, cheers. Martin, cheers. Martin, cheers. Martin, cheers. Martin, cheers.